Hello everybody, Zakar here, and today I have a Spellblade build for you guys utilizing the new skill Surge. Whenever the skill was announced, I had a look at the nodes that were revealed, and I thought to myself, what could I do with this potentially beforehand and get it prepped for the patch? So that's what I did, and this is what I ended up with. Essentially, we're using Firebrand here to generate Firebrand stacks, and with that we're able to utilize Surge, which then casts Lightning Blast. And unfortunately on the dummy I'm not able to show you, but we also cast Lightning Blast through static to nearby enemies within a range, and for whatever reason it doesn't count the dummy as a nearby enemy. This proc right here is coming from Enchant Weapon, so that's not what it is, but that's essentially the build, and you'll see more of that in the gameplay later. So for the skills, what we have here is we have static, and in static what you're going to want to do is grab the node overload here, which allows you to zap nearby enemies, then come down here and grab unlimited power, which converts the zap to lightning blast, and then top off unstable here to zap more enemies. And essentially this allows your lightning blast to cast up to 4 times if there are that many enemies, and then finally cap it off here at charge on melee hit. And as you can see, I have a +1 to this skill, so I've gone ahead and added that extra, and also my remaining 2 points into maximum charges just to sustain the 80 charges, so we can continue to cast lightning blast to nearby enemies. This and Lightning Blast are going to be your main abilities, and in Lightning Blast you're going to want to grab this more damage node here, then Arcing Power for additional chains and clear, then Lightning Aegis chance on cast so we can get some damage reduction and more damage, and then also Shatter Shock. And then once you get all those nodes, you'll come back up here, you can fill in Storm Razor, and then if you get any additional +1 nodes or any extra, you can put them up here to get some spark charges on our hits for Lightning Blast. Alright, and in the Firebrand skill, what you're going to want to do is you're going to rush this adaptive spell damage so we can start getting spell damage for our Lightning Blast and static, the spell crit multiplier, the galvanized node to convert that spell damage to lightning damage, and the static charges node here to continue gaining static charges for static to allow for it to proc Lightning Blast. And then finally you want to come down and get stack duration and stacks refreshed. Now this is another skill that I recommend getting +2 skill on, and you can put that into ward gain or ward per second per stack. And with Firebrand we're just going to be utilizing it to get stacks, keep our stacks refreshed by hitting an enemy every once in a while, so we maintain max stacks and we always have this adaptive spell damage. In Surge, what you want to do is you want to come up here and grab 3 out of 3 in Electro Pulse. Go ahead and put this one in the Ride the Lightning for the additional, or I guess the more multiplier for spell lightning damage. Increase our shock chance here with the skill. Grab some ward for defensive purposes, as we are going to be dashing into enemies, and then also invulnerability while surging. And this skill I also recommend getting plus the skill level on, and with those additional points you can really do a lot with it. You can put it into ward, you can get more static charges. I'm more than likely going to be utilizing the spark charges up here for additional damage, as they do spell damage. So finally you want to come up to Enchant Weapon, and for this we're just using it for utility and a little bit of extra damage. You want to run up and grab Conduit for zap, the frequency here so it zaps more often. Then come down and grab the active duration and to automatically recast if you're feeling lazy. And then grab the melee shock chance and fill out the celerity. Now if you don't want these nodes, you can take celerity and then put the additional into frozen sparks, or cleanse by the elements if you have the mana to sustain it. For passives, on the Mage, we want to take 8 out of 8 in Arcanist, 2 out of 2 in Scholar, then the increased attack speed here, the critical strike chance and crit multiplier. And then we go to Spellblade here, grab the elemental damage and elemental resistance here, ward gained. Come up here and get arcane shielding as soon as you can, 1 point in Warden's Echo, ward retention here, the increased melee attack speed and ward gained on melee hint. Then elemental strikes, we can come down here and fill that out. And we want to, as soon as possible, get the adaptive spell damage here for Burden of Knowledge for our Lightning Blast. Then fill in with ward and Mana Reaver, potentially, if you want to sustain mana for more chains on Lightning Blast. And the Sorcerer Tree, when we get 8 out of 8 in the spell critical strike chance. Wisdom, we want to get more points here to get us to Serranomancer, and then to get the lightning penetration here at the top of the tree, or I guess the middle, and then fill out intelligence here. And if we have any remaining points, we can come fill out for crit strike, HP, the shock, whatever nodes you feel are necessary for the build. And for idols and gear, what I would recommend is grabbing chance to cast Lightning Blast while you have Lightning Aegis, so we can continue to cast Lightning Blast and have sustained damage while we have Lightning Aegis up. This is what we're going to get for the idols. And I believe you can get lightning damage as well, doubled if you have over 300 max mana, which we can also acquire onto these idols with the chance to cast Lightning Blast. And then for the gear section, I will be putting a gear planner in the description so you can look at that, but you can kind of see what gear I have here. I'm going for spell critical strike chance on the weapon, and pretty much anywhere else I can get it. Amulet if you can, here for the relic, and then as you can see I have my +1 to Lightning Blast, I have my +1 to static, I have my Ellie rings with crit strike avoidance and some defenses and int, dodge rating, hybrid HP, kind of your typical stuff here. And then also for class specific affixes, I have the damage dealt to mana before health, which I would recommend getting on both helmet and chest piece. And that's about it. Fill in with any defenses you're lacking, maybe a little melee attack speed. And that's it for gear, really. There's no required uniques. You can get an Orion's Eye if you want to boost up your mana to over 300 and get that additional lightning damage. And also conversion from void to fire resist, or damage, I mean. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the build overview. Leveling, since we do have Surge is a pretty high skill, as well as Firebrand up in these trees. Just do a typical Lightning Blast build. Lightning Blast can carry you quite a bit away. Even Glacier unspec'd on your bar can go quite far, as it does insane damage. So I'd recommend leveling with either of those abilities, and then as you get the passive points to get these abilities, to just fill them in whenever you get the chance. Now, a couple things to note about this build, since it is a requirement to be in proximity of the enemy, you are close to the enemy quite often, so it can be dangerous in that regard. And also, the build and the way Lightning Blast is built is specialized in clear, and so the more enemies you have around you, the more damage you're going to output, as it'll cast more Lightning Blast and therefore chain more frequently, hitting more enemies. So single target with this build is not as good as other builds, but it still fares well. The only boss that you may run into trouble with, and I don't know if it's fixed anymore, I haven't tested it, but I will check. The only boss that you'll have trouble with is Lagon, because of the way that he's situated off the terrain. So the static does not proc Lightning Blast on him, and that can be an issue and cause your DPS on that fight to go down. So I recommend speccing in Lightning Blast for potentially Enchant Weapon and casting it manually while you have Firebrand stacks up. That's pretty much my solution for that. Other than that, the build performs great in Monolith and Arena. But yeah, I will show you some gameplay. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and hope you enjoy this build. Peace.